Are you ready to take the leap into homeschooling but don't quite know what to do and where to start? Whether you're just starting to consider it or you've already made the decision, we've got the perfect guide to help you along the way. Introducing the Ultimate Quick Start Guide to Homeschooling. It's your compass offering concise directions that make getting started a breeze. Dive in and discover everything you need to know, from legal requirements to curriculum tips, all in one place. Because at Start Academy, we believe that every parent has the power to homeschool with confidence. Go to today's show notes to get your hands on this comprehensive quick guide and start your homeschooling journey today. Hey, you've got this.
Welcome to the Essence of Homeschooling podcast, brought to you by the umbrella school, Start Academy. We empower and equip you to cultivate the authentic homeschool lifestyle where freedom and relationships rule.
Hey friend, I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to get into part 2 of how to start homeschooling. We'll dig into 3 more essential steps of starting your homeschooling journey. Whether you're just getting started or you're looking to refine your approach, we want to help you enjoy your homeschooling adventure with confidence. Join us as we focus on 3 key pillars of homeschooling success: establishing educational goals, setting up your learning spaces, and finding community support. So let's get started. Okay, let's move on to educational goals. So after you've chosen your homeschool style, you want to define your goals and your objectives for homeschooling. And Stacey, I think that you have some good things to say about this one.
Well, I would say when you're thinking about making your goals for this year, first of all, I'd only focus on a year at a time. I made the mistake when I first started out thinking I was going to have this plan and it was going to be so detailed, and I made multi-year goals, and then the downfall to that is when one little thing doesn't work out as you planned. I felt this pressure of I've let down, I've missed my goals for multiple years, when in reality, I just needed to focus on the year in front of me, maybe the month in front of me, and make the goal for what I wanted my children to focus on at that time. I needed to start with where they were and how I wanted to help them improve, instead of having by the end of the year goals, we will have finished the math book or whatever the case may be. Everybody has a different goal in their head originally. So I would say back up, focus on where your child is and how you can help them improve, considering their strengths, their weaknesses, and their interests, of course, and also focus on areas where you want to see growth in them. And this is more than academics. This is academics. It could be spiritual, it's emotional, it could be social. There's a lot of areas that we as homeschool moms focus on our child, and it doesn't have to always be focused on academic goals.
Character is one, right?
Character, definitely. These are the skills that I feel that sometimes gets lost when we talk about schooling. We want to focus on the academics so much, and sometimes the actual child behind the schooling gets lost. Their character, their emotional development, their social development, how they feel they fit in their family, how they learn what their purpose is in this world. All of those big picture questions need to be considered, I would say, even before academics. Because if your goal is a well-rounded child who knows what their purpose is in this life and how they want to act on their God-given purpose, then that's the goal. And your academics will fall into that, especially when they get older and you start having these conversations of how they're going to act on what they feel that God is calling them to do and how you can best help them get there.
Yeah, that's so important. And I would just add, for people who aren't religious, that even if you don't believe that there's a God who made your child with a purpose, you still believe they have a purpose, right? So that still applies to everybody, no matter what your religious beliefs are, what your worldview is on that. All kids have a purpose to fulfill in this world, and we all need to support our children in helping discover that purpose.
Definitely. And then your academics can fall into that. And also consider your resources. There's a lot of educational curriculum, co-ops, online classes, you name it. And no one has unlimited money. So consider your resources when you're looking at all of your options and prioritize what works best for your family. And then I would also say get to know your child's learning style and also your teaching style. If you do not have the time to sit and prep a lesson plan for every single subject every single day, then don't choose a curriculum and don't set a goal that involves you choosing a curriculum that requires you to do that, because that's just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, on that, and when you're setting yourself up for failure, you're setting yourself to wreck yourself emotionally. So when I first started, I pulled my son out halfway through his first grade year. I was at like a just between friends sale, I think, or something like a used like co-op type of sale, right? And I found this curriculum. It was for first grade and it was beautiful. I can't even tell you. The pictures were beautiful. The colors were beautiful. It was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I looked at it, I looked it up, very reputable, super popular, rigorous. It's gonna, they're really good at marketing. This is the thing that you need to make your child a success. Without you buying this curriculum for your first grader, he's not gonna go to college. You need our curriculum type of thing, right? It was used and I still spent like 250 bucks on this thing because it was a full first grade curriculum. To Kim's point, halfway through the year, should you really be buying new curriculum anyway? I got this curriculum. It was so labor intensive for the parent. The prep time alone was like an hour and a half every single day. That is not me. And I had 3 little boys. There was no chance. Like I was barely getting my dishes done. There was no way I was going to get all this done. And so I was trying to do it and the pressure I was putting on myself and it was terrible. I wish I had somebody to say, "Don't buy this, don't try it. And even though you bought it, you need to throw this away." I couldn't even figure out how to modify it. Don't rush into a curriculum. Don't rush into a style. Don't worry about those things. You will feel bad about yourself. You'll beat yourself up for the money that you spent. Take the time. And you cannot give your child a good foundation or a good academic career without the foundation of tuning into their heart and tuning into their character and identifying all the things that Stacey was talking about. Those are a must to address and to nurture and take care of to be able to give them a good academic future.
Yes, and doing that every year all the way through. It's a lifestyle, right? We do it as moms. And now when you're homeschooling, you do it as teacher as well. You focus on their heart, focus on their character, focus on where they want to serve, where you think they're going to serve. Focus on those big picture aspects and the academics will follow.
And don't you think too, in the high school years, I often say to my families that are thinking about college or goals after high school, that phrase, I think it's Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind, in terms of educational goals. So if you know your child is going to, go into a particular career, if they already have that aptitude or that interest, then that would be a good way to plan as well. Letting go, I often talk about letting my older son drop chemistry and take Japanese instead, because that was his interest. But my other son, I let him drop French and focus on the math classes, because he ended up in computer software. So it just depends on your child and what their end goals are as well.
Definitely. And they're not going to be the same. And don't try to make them the same. Let each kid be who they were created to be.
Yes.
That's why you're homeschooling.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I'd like to talk about schedules versus rhythms and what the differences are between those. Kim, would you talk about those a little bit?
A rhythm allows for flexibility and adaptability. You have a general idea of what you want to get done during your day or maybe your week, possibly, as you think about, okay, well, we've got this co-op on this day or this church activity on that day. And then I would really like to get through at least a few chapters of the read aloud book that we're doing, or whatever that the case may be. But being flexible with that, because life happens. And as we've talked about, homeschool as a lifestyle, relationships being most important, working around those things. So definitely having a very loose schedule is super helpful, but just don't be a slave to it.
So what would you say to the mom who has an hour by hour chart, 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m., 8 a.m., 8:39, and she's plugging in, we're going to start school at this time every day, and we have to be done at this time every day, and we're going to take lunch at this time every day. What would you say to that mom who's just getting started, who has that either the inclination or feels the pressure to be on a rigorous schedule?
Yeah, I would say, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Because not only have I kind of been there, done that, but also I've seen a lot of parents who have tried that, and it just is a recipe for stress for you, for your child, for everybody to really just hate the whole thing. And that's not why we're doing this. We're not doing it to recreate the classroom. We're not doing it to really prove anything to anybody. We're doing it because family is important, relationships are important. And yes, of course, education is important, but having it structured that closely, oh my goodness, I promise you, you'll stress everybody out and probably mostly yourself. And it definitely will not help your relationships with your kids.
I think it steals joy and
Absolutely.
steals connection, because if you're stressed out about getting something done by an exact moment or starting at an exact moment, I think you run the risk of becoming a slave to the clock. And instead of enjoying the moments with your child and being free to just sit with them and talk with them and see where the conversation goes. I mean, learning happens in all kinds of unexpected ways. You can't put learning on a clock, I don't think. And you can't then dig in and go deep into things that interest you. And for the kids to learn about themselves, I just feel like really rigid, strict schedules are a complete recipe for disaster. And I think that when we're stressed out and we're snapping at our kids to hurry up, move on, we got to get this done, I feel like that adds to extreme levels of stress in them, and the relationships really suffer, and that everybody suffers, like you said. So what do you do? How are you supposed to manage your day if you're not on a schedule? Does that mean that you let everybody sleep in until they wake up and then you get started and it's a free for all? Like, how do you maintain order if you're not on a schedule?
I think it's very family specific and also season of life specific. If you're a family that you have toddlers, maybe you have a newborn, your schedule can look very, very, very different than a family with all high schoolers.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be the same. That's the beauty of this. So there were definitely years where we slept in and started school later in the morning. And there's years where I made sure we got up and we started at a certain time on some days because we wanted to get to co-op or we had extracurriculars or something. There's so many good schedule ideas out there. Some people really like morning time or morning baskets, especially if your kids are younger. On the other end of it, for high schoolers, maybe it's more dependent on a dual enrollment class or a co-op class or something else has to get done that day. So let it change over time. Don't feel like the schedule that you have now, you have to keep all the way through. It can be year by year, it can be month by month, it can even be season by season. I have one daughter who played basketball, loves basketball. And so when she was in season, I let her sleep in a lot of mornings because she was up late at night playing sports, driving home after tournaments, and I prioritized sleep. She needed her sleep in order to be able to focus. And that's the year that we just finished this year, is really prioritizing sleep and health and wellness. And she just works better. Her mind works better in the afternoon and the evening. It was not that way when the kids were younger. So definitely be flexible.
It's also
Yeah,
a good chance to teach kids how to create their own schedules. We came up with a system of, we gave them each a whiteboard, and the day before, this is when it's probably lower elementary, the night before I would write down on each of their whiteboards. I only had 2 kids, but so it wasn't a ton of work for me, but write down, here's what you can do if you wake up before I'm ready for the day, here's what you can do by yourself. And then you get to check it off on your little whiteboard. But if I write this in red, obviously they could read by then that's something we're going to do that just, you need to wait for me to do it with you. But just know that that's coming when I'm ready. And then they could get a lot done on their own. And eventually that segued into them creating their own schedules, their own to-do lists. And they got more and more independent the older that they got, until by the time they were in high school, junior high, really, they didn't honestly need me to do that a lot for them at all. And really high school, boy, they were super independent. So you really, your goal is to work yourself out of a job as far as that goes. And having them learn to make their own schedules is a big part of that.
It's a
I
great
think,
life skill.
yeah, I think paying attention to the rhythms and the routines too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we know that this is the order that we naturally do things in. So now how can we accommodate learning into those? Like my kids they're in high school now. And as they've gotten older and they're more independent, they want to get up and make a cup of coffee and read some history. Right. And then they get their morning grooves and they have their things. So, and that's not all of them. It's one of them. That's my unschooler, actually. Teaching them to identify and learn their time management through rhythms and routines, I think, is big. And that doesn't have to only be for high schoolers. You can help your younger kids, identify, what do we like to do in the morning? What orders do we do things in? So there's a lot that you can do just with rhythms. And the only other thing that I want to add to schedules that I love is a looping schedule. And I think everybody should look into that. That's where you have certain subjects that you can rotate through that you don't need to do every day. You have basically, and this is such a quick summary of it, but you have a list of these subjects and you just go through. And then whenever you run out of time, you leave off on the list, and the next day you pick up on the next thing and you just cycle through. So you're always rotating to make sure that everything's getting done, even though it's not getting done every day. So I think looping schedule is a great way to help with getting things done without being on a super strict schedule.
Are you looking for a supportive community to walk with you through your homeschooling journey? Look no further. Start Academy is your go-to umbrella school for fulfilling legal reporting requirements in Colorado. But what if you don't live in Colorado? We still serve you through our support tools and services. At Start Academy, we're not just another institution. We're your partners in education, providing comprehensive support services designed to empower, encourage, and equip you to be the best homeschool parent that your children deserve. Teacher and student IDs, parent and professional evaluations, attendance logs, record-keeping services, DIY high school transcripts, or our official homeschool high school transcript service produces personalized transcripts that highlight your students' unique accomplishments. High school diplomas celebrate your family's achievement when you successfully complete the adventure. Additionally, our experienced homeschool coaches provide one-on-one support throughout your journey. Custom tailor your homeschool support system by selecting one of our 3 enrollment packages based on your family's needs. This way, you can get exactly what you need to make the most of your homeschooling experience. We come alongside you in the way you want to be supported, whether that's the bare minimum or holding your hand each step of the way. The umbrella school Start Academy provides what you want the way you want it. So why wait? Enroll with Start Academy today and unlock a world of possibilities for your homeschooling journey. Go to theumbrellaschool.com to learn more and sign up. We can't wait to serve your family.
Learning space is when you're designing the area in your home where you feel learning is going to happen. When you're doing this, you want to consider not pictures on Instagram of beautiful schoolrooms that people have designed for their homeschools. It's not going to be picture perfect. It's not going to be everything that your designer imagination has come up with, but it also shouldn't look like a school. Like some people will set up a schoolroom and they'll have desks and they will even have like a dry erase board on the wall for the teacher to teach, for the mom to teach on. So we want to look at learning space and how you want to create a learning space in your home. So Kim, I think you have some particularly good ideas about this since you went from being a school teacher and bringing your kids home. What do you think about this?
We ended up eventually in the kitchen quite a bit during their early years, because that's just where our life happened quite a bit, kitchen or living room. And of course, we had our big basket full of our 67 library books in the living room, and we'd curl up on the couch and do read alouds together, or watch a educational video, or just a fun video, whatever. Or they would work at the kitchen counter quite a bit on their own. And if I felt like it was helpful to have some sort of a visual, then I would tack it to the refrigerator, or there was a spot in our dining room where I could tack something onto the wall there if I felt like I needed to. I also tacked or taped a great big multiplication chart to the back of their bathroom door, because every time they closed the door and they went in there, well, there was their multiplication tables. So just, funny little things like that. And then in the kitchen, we had baskets or shelves, just depending on the year, of where their books were. So they would always know, this is where my school books live. This is the shelf in the kitchen. We had a special bookcase in there for that, or a basket, whatever. And so it became very much a part of our daily lifestyle. And then the older that they got, obviously that changed, and they worked a little bit more in their bedrooms if they needed the quiet. But even then, it was definitely very organic. Certainly did not look like my classroom when I was.
Did you try it first?
Yes,
When you got home with your school box, did you
put the little bulletin board things on the wall? Did you think about having little desks for them? What did you do?
100%. I had a spot upstairs and I had this, it was so beautiful. I had a little desk, had a bulletin board. I even put little, border around it. You do all your calendar time and all this kind of stuff. And we would sit there. I would try to make them sit there and do all the things. And no, it just didn't work. They were just squirrely. And that's, I think, too, is the part where I realized, okay, I'm the teacher, but I'm also the parent. So you've got this sort of hybrid situation going on where you're trying to figure out, yes, I need to teach and yes, I need to get the job done, but I'm also a parent. So I'm also training obedience, frankly, and learning skills and loving to learn all at the same time. So you have a lot of things going on. So I think the more organic you make it, the easier it is, the less formal and structured, honestly, the easier it is.
Yeah, the more natural. And Stacy, what about you? Did you set up like a homeschool room or anything? What did you do?
No, we were the same. We were kitchen counter schoolers. We would come down in the morning and they would be on one side of the counter and I'd be on the other making breakfast. And we always like to do math right away. So I'd start making breakfast. We get math out, we get math done. And we just usually stay at the counter most of the day. Some years we would go up to the study. And I remember sitting on the floor and doing spelling and some subjects. But most of the time it was just in the family space in the kitchen.
We did a
What
lot
would you
outside too.
Oh yeah,
And
outside.
yeah,
I think that there's like the ideas we can have an ideology about how things should be. Like if I'm going to be a good homeschooling mom, we're going to all sit around the dining room table, we're going to all sit around the kitchen table and everybody's going to get along and the older children are going to help the younger children and the children are going to be respectful and it's going to be this picture perfect life. I don't know, do you think that there's a pressure for that? I think there used to be more than there is now, and I don't know if that's because it's so much more, homeschooling is so much more popular now, and it's not just Christian conservatives that are homeschooling, right? It's not just people who wear long dresses and are very traditional who are homeschooling. Everybody's doing it now. If there is a family out there that feels this pressure of fitting into the traditional image of everybody sitting around the kitchen table, what would you say to her?
I guess I might ask, what would be the goal of that? If you could do that, if you could make that happen in your family, what would be the goal of that? And maybe explore the reasoning behind the want to look like that. Because maybe there's a misconception that that's the only way that homeschooling is quote unquote successful. And then you could explore other definitions of success and learn more about how to support your children without it looking like that. If that's just something that you really, really want, I guess that's different. But I don't think most people want that.
Most kids don't want it anyway.
I think if you're going to do that, you have to know that that's you have to do it in small time increments. Like I know people that do it. One of my nieces has 7 kids and is homeschooling and has these wonderful pictures, and they absolutely have created that, but they also have a very active outdoor lifestyle with it's sort of a mini farm that they have. And so you have to do it, I think, in small chunks and also with a lot of working together unit study type things. Just be realistic about it and be relaxed about it. And I think it can work, but just if you're not doing it that way, that does not mean failure at all. You have to do what works for your family.
We have to live in realities, not in our ideas, and kids are wiggly,
Mhm.
especially if you have little boys, right? In summary of learning space is just let it be natural, let it accommodate kids' learning styles, especially if there's sensory issues going on. If you have kids that have special needs, let them have what they need to be comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, if they're not comfortable, learning isn't going to happen. It's the same thing if you're not taking care of heart issues and soul issues and character issues and relationship issues, learning isn't going to happen. Just give yourself the flexibility to, one, do it the way that's going to work for your family. You don't have to have a fancy setup. You don't have to have it looking like anybody else's. And you just be free. That's the whole be free. The essence of homeschooling is to be free and to make it your own and make it work for your family, whatever that looks like. Whether it's a kid doing handstands while they're reading, or if they're under a table, or if you don't mind and they're on top of the table and that's where they need to be. And that's okay with you. It doesn't matter. Just get them in a position where they can learn and don't worry about the messy house. It's going to be messy and it's a part of It's a part of life and it's going to be okay. Don't try to make it insta perfect. It's not real. Don't compare your family's insides to anybody else's outsides that they're putting on social media. Like, just don't even look at it. Don't even worry about it. The last thing I want us to talk about tonight, this is like the kind of just like shoring it up for when you're getting started homeschooling, is finding community, because it can be lonely and it can be intimidating, especially when you're first starting out if you don't know anybody. So, what would you all say about finding community and how to do that, how to find it, how to start connecting with people once you meet the people? What's your best advice for finding community?
When we first started out, I was in a MOPS group at our church, and I was at a table that had some other homeschool moms during the period of deschooling that I mentioned earlier. And I was just really honestly just praying about it and thinking, if I can't figure this out, I'm just going to put him in school. And I talked to my friends at my MOPS table, and that's when I guess I became vulnerable with them. And I said, look, this isn't working the way that I had hoped it would. We all hate it. And obviously that coming from the classroom again, that was a kind of discouraging and kind of embarrassing and kind of like, what is going on here? Very confusing for me. And that's when I made really lifelong friends, two dear friends. And they said, come have lunch with us today. And if you can just grab a loaf of bread at the Safeway and meet us at one of our houses and we'll get together. And it just really started as organically as that. And then what we started doing was we met together once a week, approximately, we were flexible, and we started doing unit studies together, and we kind of created our own little co-op that really lasted really through junior high school age. And we just have lifelong friends there. And so I think being vulnerable and reaching out to others that you see around you, like you go to a park in the middle of a school day and you see another family there, chances are they're another homeschool family. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, meet people and see. And sometimes it works out and you connect and your families bond right away. And other times you realize, this isn't really a good fit. We have different lifestyles and that's okay too. But I think the park is a great neutral place to say, if you meet someone, say in a local Facebook group, for example, and you say, let's have a homeschool meetup day at such and such a park. And you get together and you try and just put yourself out there and connect with people and see who really kind of meshes with your family. So that's one way you could do it, through either just organically through your church or through Facebook groups, things like that.
And depending on where you live, there could be a lot of organized co-ops or enrichment programs offered by school districts or private schools, or even local farms or ranches, museums, aquariums. Lots of different places offer homeschool co-ops. And some of those are one-time things where you just show up and maybe you meet somebody, maybe you don't, but some of them are ongoing. So you can look online, connect with others in your community, see what all the options are in your area. And then you have to go back to the things we talked about earlier. What is your homeschool style? What are your goals for the year? What are your resources? And then plug in the community part in alignment with everything that you've already decided on those aspects of it. So you're not just going to a co-op and you're missing a whole school day, and then you come home and you feel like you need to cram in the work that day because you didn't do anything at the co-op that day because that's not part of your educational goals for that year. So there's also things like sports, lots of different opportunities for homeschool kids to do. So look online at all your options and then narrow down what your kids want to do. Ask them, what do you want to do this year or this month or this season? What are we going to spend our free time doing? What are we going to spend our homeschool time doing? And hopefully you can make some friends with like-minded children in those areas.
I just want to add, just to say to the introverts, because I'm an introvert too, and it's hard to put yourself out there. And like what you were talking about, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and to say, hey, look, I'm struggling, or hey, look, I'm new, or our family is lonely. That's a really, really scary thing to say, honestly, for anybody, but I think for introverts, maybe even a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be really hard, especially if you feel like your family doesn't look like the other families that you're seeing, doesn't fit in with the other families that you're seeing, and you feel uneasy about it. I think it's even harder now after all of the COVID shutdowns and dealing with this, because I know for myself, while I hated the shutdowns for what I saw it doing with my kids who are missing their friends and how it was very disturbing to so many people, I actually really enjoyed just being able to be home and not engage with things. And I think a lot of introverts really felt that way. What I've realized is that coming out of it, as things started up again, I got extra comfort in that space of not having to go out and put myself out there. And I got out of the habit of it. Coming out of COVID, it became even, I realized, more uncomfortable for me to put myself out there and make that conversation with somebody else, to introduce myself to somebody new, to make that effort. And it's easier to slip back. But I want to encourage you, if you are an introvert friend, put yourself out there for your own sake and for your children's sake, because you don't realize how lonely it can get and how it can feel like you're in a vacuum. And you should not be alone when you're homeschooling. And your children, they want friends and they want to see you have friends too, because when mamas are happy, their children are happy too. So if it's hard for you to think about putting yourself out there, just go for it and be bold and be brave. And remember that you don't ever have to homeschool alone. And if you're having a hard time getting encouragement that you need in a community, we are here anytime. You can reach out to us. You can send us emails. All of our coaches, you can get an appointment with a coach within a couple of days. Throughout the week, somebody has time available, and you should never homeschool alone. And we are totally here for you. So be bold, be brave, do it for yourself, do it for your kids. Your life will be better when you have community and you're connected with other people.
Absolutely.
So we have a guide that's available for download from our show notes, and it'll walk you through in depth each one of the things that we've talked about today, and quite a few things that we didn't talk about today. But inside of this, there's quick tips for things to do and what not to do when you're starting homeschooling. And so I really encourage you to get the download if you're just getting started homeschooling, or if you're thinking about homeschooling, or if you've recently started and you feel like maybe it's a little bit bumpy and it's not going quite the way you wanted it to or the way you imagined it to. Or maybe you did jump into a curriculum or put your kids in an online school and it's just not working out and you're starting to get stressed out. Please go to the show notes and download this, because it'll help you, and it'll give you links to even more resources. It'll help walk you through some things. So we're glad to spend the time with you.
Are you interested in doing a professional homeschool evaluation but feel uneasy about having someone look at your students' work? Do you have questions about the process and how everything comes together? Get our guide to stress-free homeschool evaluation techniques with our expert guidance. Don't miss out on this helpful information. Go to today's show notes for a copy of our ultimate guide to stress-free professional homeschool evaluations.